Sorry. Sorry. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joanna Holden and I am a Christian author of fantasy as well as being an author tuber here on YouTube. Today I am tackling a question that I actually researched on YouTube 2 years ago and could not find an answer to, and that is, how long does it take to write a novel? I asked this question at the time because I was struggling with my co-signer novel. I had originally planned on writing the entirety of Act 1 in the month of April, and by the month of June, I was still working on it. Needless to say, I got pretty discouraged when it stretched from a 1-month project to a 3-month project. So I went online looking for help, and I couldn't really find any answers. Nobody seemed to want to talk about this, so I'm going to talk about it today. Basically, I'm going to be giving the advice today that I wish someone had given me 2 years ago when I so desperately needed it. So I hope this helps you, and let's get into it. In case you're wondering, why would I need to know how long it's going to take to write a book? For those of us, especially who are trying to self-publish, it really helps to have a time frame to know when you need to start looking for the other parts of the writing process besides the actual drafting. Things like beta readers, professional edits, proofreading, cover designers, marketing, all that fun stuff, and of course the actual release date. You want to know how long it's going to take you to write the book so that you can kind of figure out your writing schedule for this book, for any other books that you want to write, especially if you're like me and you have all the books, all the series. None of these are like one book, like all of these are series. Sometimes I think I hate myself. You want to have some kind of time frame for all the fun things that come after the drafting phase, and it helps if you have kind of a guesstimate of how long it's going to take you to write your book. So, back to the question, which was, how long will it take you to write the book? You may not be able to guesstimate how long it's going to take you to write a novel until you've actually written a novel. So, if you are just getting started, I would say don't give yourself a time frame if you can help it. Just focus on establishing your writing routine, writing every day or every other day or 4 days a week or whatever you want to establish for your writing routine, getting into the habit of consistent writing. And then as you do that, as you develop your writing routine and as you are consistent with it, you'll start noticing patterns that will help you to figure out how much you can write in how big an amount of time. The first thing that you must know before anything else, and this is something I did not discover until recently, is that there is no one set time frame for any given genre, word count length, chapter length, audience, target audience, age, anything. There is no one set in stone rulebook of how long it's going to take you to write your novel exactly. This is because there are so many different factors going on when you're writing a book, and that's what I want to talk about right now. The first part of this video is about the different factors that you must take into consideration as you are trying to figure out how long it's going to take you to write your book. So there are a couple of aspects that you want to consider when you're trying to gauge how long it's going to take you to write your novel. The first of those is, how big is this story? It's going to take you way longer to write like a Game of Thrones style novel that's full of many subplots, multiple points of view, so much world building and history to try and finagle into the book than what I just wrote, which was a 40,000 word fairy tale retelling for middle graders. So you want to know how big your story is. How many subplots are there? How much history do you have to delve into? How big is your character's journey? How many POV characters do you have? How many worlds does your story take place in? Are you going to have to describe setting every 5 minutes, or is it something simple people will be able to pick up on easy because it's in their own backyard? Take into consideration how big the story is. And then the bigger the story is, the more time you want to add on for all the fun stuff. The second thing you want to consider is how many words your average scene is. Does that sound right? So how many words long is your average scene? Is your average scene 1,200 words, 2,500 words? Then calculate up how many scenes you have in your outline that you're going to write. Then add all that up times 1,200. This should tell you about how many words your book is going to end up being at the end of your first draft. Now, your target word count goal for your book may be significantly shorter or significantly longer, but don't worry, that's things you can fix in the second draft. Right now, you're just going to figure out how many words you're going to need. And then lastly, kind of sum all of this up for this section of the video, you're going to want to figure out how many words you average per writing session. Now, this is going to depend on you having a consistent writing routine, so you know about how many words you average per hour or per 20-minute session. Once you know how many words you can get on average in a single writing session, you can look at your calendar, figure out how many writing sessions you think you can fit in a given month or a given week or a given quarter. Then you can sit down and figure out, okay, so the book is going to approximately be this long. I have this much time and I have these many writing sessions. I'm guessing that it's going to take me, add it all up, 4 months to get this done, or 1 year to get this done, or I'll probably be finished with the first draft in 2 years, or I bet I can pound this out in 3 weeks. The second half of the video I want to dedicate to some very important notes. This is especially important if you have never written a novel before or never completed a novel before, and you don't know how many words you can average in a writing session, or even how long your writing sessions usually are, or if you don't know how many words per scene you average. That's where I was when I started Coastlander, and where I was up until this past year. It was so frustrating. I watched these videos about people calculating their words so that they could fit in this many words to this writing session and then have it done by this time. And I was just like, but I don't know. I don't know how many words I can write. I don't know this and I don't know that, and oh, I'm a terrible writer. First of all, you're not a terrible writer, just in case you were inclined to think that way. These next couple steps are gonna help you with that. They're gonna help you to figure out a guesstimated amount of time for your novel, and then give you some tips on how to reach that goal. The first thing is to establish a writing routine that works for you. Okay, so let's say, for me personally, and I'll talk about this probably more in another video, but my current writing, drafting process is 5 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I do an hour in the afternoon, sometimes coupled with an hour or two in the evening. I do this every week for a month. I write consistently for that month, and then I can get a decent chunk of writing out of the way, and it's much easier to reach my goals. Second thing, of course, is be diligent. Make yourself sit down to write. Naturally, there are going to be crazy life happenings that throw you out of wild, but I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the days when you have the option to write or the option to binge on Netflix. You have the option to write or you have the option to scroll on Pinterest. You have the option to write or do anything else that could be saved for another time. Choose to do your writing. Unless you are in physical pain or emotional pain or your brain literally cannot think, which happens a lot when you have little kids, you really need to push to be diligent. For a while, it's basically like working out. For a while, it really hurts. And then once you're done, you look back and realize how much you've grown as a writer. It can be so exciting once you get into the writing. Oftentimes, the hardest part is just making yourself sit down and actually write. Once you sit down and write, the words will probably start coming to you much faster than you think. The third thing that you're going to want to remember is to schedule in breaks for yourself from writing. I don't mean giant month-long, sabbaticals from writing. I'm talking about little weekly rest days from your writing that are regular, that are short, that happen frequently enough that you don't get burned out and need a huge month-long rest period from writing. Because the longer that you take a break from writing, the harder it is to get back into it, which is going to seriously affect how long it takes you to write the book. When I was writing Coastlander, and I've talked about this before, we moved across the states 3 times. I had a kid. We did all these crazy things happened. And so I would take a little break from writing, and that little break would turn into a bigger break, and then a bigger break. And before I knew it, a couple of months had gone by where I hadn't written a single word. So I'd have to sit down and force myself to get back into writing. And those next couple of days and weeks, it would be a drag. It would hurt so bad to have to try and get the words from here to the computer. It's so much easier if you schedule a day or 2 rest every week, where you're getting a little bit of a break. You can go out and find some inspiration. You can go and do something different that exercises different muscles in your brain other than your writing ones. It gives you time to be with friends and family so that you're recharging your batteries. Again, If you make it a part of your routine, so it's little breaks here and there, regularly and frequently, then you won't get burned out as quickly and you'll be able to keep the pace up for a much longer time, which means getting your story done faster. And the very last tip that you're going to want to consider is leaving room in your writing calendar for break days. I don't mean the break days that I talked about. It's easy to look at your writing calendar and say, oh, I could make this book happen in 1 month if I wanted to. When then you forget that you're filling up every single day of that month with writing, and you're not giving yourself any room for the day when the repairman doesn't show up, and the day when the laundromat just is not working, and the day when your garbage disposal blows up in your face, or the day when the babysitter can't show up. You're not taking into account any of those things. I know all the things that I just mentioned are like housewifey. I'm sorry, that's what I'm most familiar with right now. Just translate it into college ease or workplace ease for those of you who aren't stay-at-home moms. Sorry. This way, if you end up coming to that break day where it's written off on your calendar that it's a break day and you don't need it, you can get in an extra day of writing instead of falling behind because you forgot to leave room. So let's say you've got a month's worth of writing ahead. You give yourself 2 extra days of break time and you put them randomly in your calendar. It's so much better to get to those 2 days and say, you know what, I actually feel great. I'm going to go ahead and write and get 2 days ahead of your writing schedule than to not plan any break days and end up having to take a 4-day sick leave and not get any writing done. Now you're 4 days behind. Give yourself a little bit of wiggle room when you sit down and say, okay, I think I can finish this novel in 3 months. Say, okay, 3 months and maybe 1 week. Give yourself a little bit of extra wiggle room. I did this recently with Snow Dust, where I sat down and said, I think I can write this in 2 months. I think I could probably write this in a month and a half. I'm going to give myself 2 months to write it, and I ended up finishing it in only 1. It felt so much better to be ahead of that schedule than to be so far behind it like I was with Coastlander. Going back, and again, remember, the bigger the project, the more time you want. So if you have a book where you've got to do a ton of research and you maybe haven't done all your research yet because you're a little bit of a pantser and you want to just go ahead and get in there and start writing the story, then give yourself an extra week or 2 tagged on to the end. Make sure you have time for your research and time for your marketing and time for this and time for that. Okay guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope you really enjoyed this content. Let me know in the comments below what some of your tips and tricks are for figuring out how long it's going to take you to write a novel and then actually writing your novel in that time frame. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. It goes a long way to support me and my channel. And of course, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on the way out. I post videos every Saturday all about writing fantasy, writing series, my writing journey. It's awesome. You should subscribe. All the information you need to know about me, my books, and the services I offer to writers as a writer is in the description box below, as well as links to all of my social media accounts. As I've mentioned before, I'm the most active on Instagram, so be sure to follow me there if you want to find out more updates about my books, giveaways, new videos, all that fun stuff. Oh yeah, and if you want to see these videos as soon as they come out, make sure to hit that notification bell. It is such a lifesaver. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of the weekend writing, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!